For decades, Tom Silva showed up on your TV as this quiet, down-to-earth carpenter from Massachusetts. But off-camera, he was living a whole different story. Since 1999, he's been secretly paying for something that would totally shock even his biggest fans. Only 3 families know the real deal, but they promised to keep quiet about it. It has to do with California wildfires, Massachusetts disasters, and a foundation nobody even knew was there. When the story finally got out in 2025, it spilled Tom's biggest secret. What he's been doing with his money is gonna blow your mind. This isn't the Tom Silva you thought you knew. Tom Silva was born on January 17, 1947, in Lexington, Massachusetts, in a house where everybody was always working and every hand helped out. His dad worked with stone for a living, and his older brother Dick was already learning it. So Tom grew up as the baby of a family that believed you earn your skills one day at a time. As a little kid, he watched his dad fix stone walls around old New England houses. And by the time he was 8, he already knew how to mix mortar with his own hands. Their house was partly built by family members, and it felt more like a workshop than a regular home. Tom stained furniture with his dad, used old tools that gave him splinters, and learned careful woodworking by messing up a little. At 10, he grabbed a hammer by himself and started building small sheds with his uncles. He also got a scar on his left hand when a chisel slipped, a mark he kept forever, and a reminder of how young he started. Those years from 10 to 16 just kept getting bigger for him. One project really stuck with him forever. His family decided to build a fallout shelter under their old 1787 colonial house. Cold War fears were all over the place, and it felt super serious. Tom helped dig a giant 20-40 by 12-foot hole with just shovels, hauled out rocks, framed it all, and finished everything by hand. It took 2 whole years. When it was finished, something clicked inside him. He knew this kind of work was his future. It wasn't just about learning how stuff fits together, but also about feeling the rhythm of building and the happiness of watching something grow from nothing. These moments shaped him and got him ready for the world he'd soon take on. After graduating from Lexington High School in 1965, Tom picked a path most people didn't see coming. He turned down college even though he had a scholarship offer. He felt books would never teach him what real jobs could. His family's past pulled him toward hands-on work, and stories about his great-great-grandfather fighting at the Battle of Lexington gave him pride in building things that last. He trusted his hands more than anything, and that trust pushed him forward. In 1966, when he was only 19, Tom and his brother Dick decided to start their own thing. They opened Silva Brothers Construction in Arlington with 1 pickup truck and $500 in tools. A lot of them were borrowed. At first, they took any job they could find. Little attic fixes, simple upgrades, small changes for neighbors. 10 jobs came in that first year, all from people talking. Folks saw how the brothers worked and trusted them. That quiet start on a freezing winter day became the foundation for a company that lasted decades. 2 years later, Tom did his first solo kitchen expansion in Belmont. He had to make custom oak cabinets using only hand tools, no power saws, no fancy stuff. He worked through a crazy blizzard that held up the lumber truck. And still, he finished the whole job in just 12 days. That project made him $2,000, huge money for a young guy. The homeowner told friends and more work rolled in. Tom learned fast that sticking with it and doing quality work got him farther than anything else. By 1970, Silva Brothers started doing roofs, and Tom came up with a trick using old barn wood under the shingles. That idea saved customers about 20% on materials, which helped the business grow. But one stormy day changed everything. A roof fell in because the supports weren't strong enough. Tom almost got hurt bad. That moment freaked him out. It made the brothers step up their safety rules and buy better gear. The close call turned into a game changer, and from then on, people knew them for planning everything carefully and building super strong. Life kept going. In 1972, Tom married Susan, and she quietly became the rock of the business. She handled the money and set up a tiny office in their garage. With her doing the books, Tom could take on bigger jobs. In 1974, he worked on turning a barn into a house and had to take apart 200-year-old beams by hand. Susan kept the company running smooth while the projects got bigger and tougher. Their teamwork gave the business strength that just skill couldn't give. Then trouble hit in 1975. A customer blamed them for a bad foundation work and sued, pushing the Silvas into a tough spot. They had to put their house up for mortgage to pay lawyer fees. Instead of just arguing in court, Tom went to the site every night for 3 months and rebuilt the whole thing himself. The customer was so shocked by his effort that he dropped the lawsuit and even told others about them. That story flew around town. It locked in Tom's rep as a guy who stands behind his work, no matter how rough it gets. A little over 10 years later, everything flipped again. In 1986, producer Russell Morash from This Old House spotted Tom at a trade show cutting perfect dovetail joints. Tom explained it so simply and clearly that it grabbed Morash's attention. Soon after, Morash showed up out of nowhere at one of Tom's job sites with cameras. He asked Tom to fix a droopy porch right then and there. Tom fixed it in under 2 hours, super calm while cameras rolled. That surprise test got him hired as the show's main contractor. A few months later, he was on TV for the first time. His first episode was Season 6, Episode 1, in March 1986. He rebuilt a Victorian staircase railing using old reclaimed chestnut wood. The job looked tricky because the wood was ancient and fragile. Tom made it look easy, fixing the style instead of swapping it out. What blew people away was how real he was. He admitted he'd never even watched TV before the show. Everything he knew came from actual jobs. His chill, honest vibe pulled viewers in and made him a fan favorite right away. There were some tense moments, too. During the 1987 Nantucket project, Bob Vila wanted to use power nailers to go faster. Tom said no way. He insisted on hand-nailing all 500 shiplap boards like builders did in the 1800s. It slowed filming by a whole day and annoyed everybody. But Tom knew the old way made a tighter, better finish. His stubbornness earned respect and showed what the show was really about. By 1988, fans started noticing something cute about Tom. Whenever he sanded wood or did fine details, he'd whistle old Portuguese folk songs. It was something he did since he was a kid. Those little tunes helped him focus and reminded him of his roots. Fans totally loved hearing that soft whistle in the background. It felt like peeking into his real life and became part of what made him special. In 1989, a scary moment almost turned tragic. While filming in Bedford, a scaffold broke while Tom was doing outside siding. A cameraman was standing right underneath. Tom shoved the guy out of the way and took the fall himself. He broke his right wrist, but refused to quit. He kept filming with his wrist in a splint, doing whatever he could. The crew never forgot that. It showed how much he cared about people and the job. Tom Silva's big breakout didn't happen with fireworks. It happened in 1990, inside a quiet, falling-apart 1790 colonial in Concord, Massachusetts. The house was trashed. Floors sagged, beams were worn out, and everything looked ready to collapse. Tom didn't treat it like a normal fix-up. He treated it like going back in time. He tracked down real old pegged joints from salvaged shipwood, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Then he spent over 400 hours hand-cutting mortise and tenon joints. Slow, tough work that hurt his hands. But every cut matched how they built in the late 1700s. When it was finished, you could feel the realness. The New York Times wrote about it. Old house groups loved it. Builders all over the Northeast started copying his respect for old-school ways. And that one wrecked house became the moment his name started spreading everywhere. 2 years later, in 1992, he was back on This Old House with a problem every old house has: uneven floors. Most guys just shoved in regular shims and crossed their fingers. Tom wanted something better. During the Belmont House redo, he invented what people started calling the Silva shim method. He used thin, smart cedar wedges, layered them perfectly, and stacked them so he could adjust the exact height without stressing the floor. That small trick did huge things. It stopped cracks. It stopped squeaks. It let the floor move naturally instead of fighting the house. Viewers at home saw the difference instantly. Trade schools all over New England started teaching it. If a house built before 1900 had sagging floors, this trick became the main fix. And even now, carpenters still talk about it like a secret handed down. Then came 1994, one of those moments that could have gone really wrong. Tom was doing a live demo on this old house, cutting with a handsaw, cool as ever. All of a sudden, the blade broke. It flew back and almost sliced his leg. He got a bad cut. The whole set froze for a second, but Tom stayed chill. He wrapped it up right on camera and laughed. Tools have minds of their own. People loved it, not because it was scary, but because he didn't freak out. That clip got replayed tons in behind-the-scenes stuff. It also started bigger talks about staying safe with tools on TV and real sites. The message was simple. Stuff happens, but a true craftsman keeps control. By 1995, the show took him to a Newton attic conversion, and this time, it got personal. His nephew Charlie was there learning from him. The attic needed custom corbels carved from butternut wood. Tom said those corbels were important for looks and strength. Charlie wanted store-bought ones to save time. That idea upset Tom. They argued big time. The kind of fight that's not just about wood, but about what you think the trade should be. Old ways versus shortcuts. In the end, Tom won. The project turned out great. And later, Charlie said those tough rules made him a way better builder. In 1996, Tom made his work even better. He grew Silva Brothers by adding a real mill shop. It wasn't just new machines. He went old school. He fixed up a 1920s planer himself until it made perfect panels. Those panels ended up in a fancy Boston museum show about American craftsmanship done the hard, old way with vintage tools. The exhibit got attention all over the country. People saw that fixing old houses didn't mean killing its history. You could breathe new life into old houses without ruining their heart. And Tom kept proving it over and over. Years flew by, and jobs kept coming. In October 2002, his first Ask This Old House segment aired. The job was a historic house in Woburn, Massachusetts with a slate roof that kept leaking. Slate can last over 100 years, so people think it's bulletproof. But Tom found the real problem in tiny details. Years of heat and cold had cracked exactly 47 tiles. The roof underneath also had bad airflow, making it worse. He didn't slap on cheap fixes. He replaced every cracked tile with handmade ones that matched the old 1800s style. It took days and special tools. Viewers learned something cool and simple. Even tough materials need love, and real slate work is rare for a reason. In spring 2005, another house needed him. This one was near the ocean, and the hardwood floors were twisting from moisture. High humidity was making boards cup and lift, and replacing everything would have cost a ton. Tom didn't rip it all out. Instead, he dug a 24-inch deep trench around the room and built a secret dehumidifier system. The trick came from super old cellar ideas used to keep grain dry. Old knowledge, new stuff. Moisture went down, wood relaxed, and the owners saved around $10,000 in fixes. The fix felt like a smart hidden hack, and it spread fast to people in wet areas. Behind the scenes, though, all that hard work started catching up. Years of lifting heavy stuff, bending and pushing through finally hit him. In 2007, he had 2 big back surgeries just months apart. It kept him off the show to heal, but he came back only weeks after the sequel, and won. He never let the pain show on camera. The crew moved schedules around, and he wore braces and moved carefully to keep teaching the same stuff. That comeback was shown in a special later and reminded everyone the trade isn't just skill. It's about hanging in there, and your body pays the price for every cool thing you see. By 2010, Tom was still wanted balance between old and new. He led a series on energy-saving windows in a 1920s bungalow. The owners wanted comfort, but not to lose the house's old charm. Vinyl windows were cheap and everywhere, but Tom said no. He picked custom-stained mahogany ones that matched the original wood, then added super-tight seals. In the first year, heating bills dropped about 30%. That saved hundreds of dollars. The real point was easy. Old-style materials can beat new ones if you build and seal them right. And old houses don't have to look modern to feel cozy and new. In fall 2012, a stormy shoot in Maine forced another quick call. A house was about to get flooded and the storm was already hitting. Tom threw together a fast gutter system using leftover copper flashing. They cut it to fit the roof, fastened it special, and did it all in the rain. The way it was filmed felt like saving the day. The clip blew up with DIY fans because it was quick, cheap, and smart. Using old copper instead of buying new gave it a cool green feel people loved. By 2015, Silva Brothers was big enough that Tom felt okay handing daily stuff to family. He gave the main control to Charlie. The company had 25 workers now and was making about $5 million a year. Even then, Tom didn't vanish. Every week, he stopped by job sites and checked everything himself. That habit saved a job in 2016. He caught a huge framing mistake in a 2-story addition. A main support wall was off and could have caused the whole thing to fall if nobody saw it. Tom fixed it in time. The owner avoided a disaster that would have cost hundreds of thousands, and the crew learned no detail is too tiny if you want to sleep good. In 2018, the business changed again because the world was changing. Green building was getting huge, so Silva Brothers jumped in. Tom ran a garage build in Arlington with solar built right in. It wasn't just slapping panels on top. He handmade bamboo trusses picked for strength and being earth-friendly. Then a Category 2 hurricane hit with winds over 100 mph. The garage didn't budge, barely any damage. The project won a local green award and showed old-school craft could totally fit the future without losing its strength. In 2019, they learned a rough lesson, this time about trust. Silva Brothers ordered top-quality wood for a big job. What showed up was thin, cracked junk. A supplier ripped them off. The loss was $50,000. Tom faced the guy, refused to pay, and pushed for an investigation. After hard talks and legal stuff, he got most money back. Then, he made every supplier rule way stricter. The story spread as a warning to other builders. Good work starts with good wood, and you can't be soft about it. By 2020, Tom cared less about getting bigger and more about what he'd leave behind. In his backyard, on a simple bench, he taught his 14-year-old grandson how to cut dovetail joints. He showed the old way he learned years ago, but this time he also used modern safety stuff like goggles and gloves. Things he skipped when he was young. It was a quiet moment, but it meant a lot. Craft is important, safety is important, and family is important enough to pass it all on together. Then in 2022, another stressful job came up. Silva Brothers got hired to fix up a historic Lexington Inn. The place had 300-year-old pine beams that couldn't be replaced if messed up. Tom watched over putting them back, strengthening each one for earthquake, as while keeping the original look perfect. They used custom steel brackets hidden inside the wood, so new safety rules were followed without messing up history. Old house experts loved it. City people loved it. And for Tom, it probably felt like coming full circle. He started saving a 1790 house back in 1990. And decades later, he was still doing the exact same thing, just bigger with the same careful hands. Tom Silva walked into 2023 with the same steady hands he always had, and he brought them into a world that looked nothing like the one he grew up in. When he went to Austin for a special episode about 3D printed houses, he didn't just stand there clapping, he wanted to touch it. So he grabbed a drill and tested the joints himself. At first, the printed walls looked smooth and quick, but when he leaned in with the drill, he felt weak spots that only real wood joints could fix. He said the future might not be just machines or just old ways. It might be strongest when both team up. When the episode came out in early 2025, builders argued for weeks. Some said he was stuck in the past. Others said he saw stuff they missed. But everybody agreed he made the whole industry stop and really think. Then came 2024, and Boston was buzzing when Tom walked into the big trade expo for his woodworking masterclass. People had been waiting since morning. By the time he got there, over 5,000 people filled the place. It was the biggest crowd the expo ever had. Tom took his time. He set out a cherry board and spent 2 full days turning it into a dining table. The coolest part was when he hand-planed for 48 hours straight. The sound of the plane on wood filled the whole hall, and people leaned in to watch the grain shine. After, more than 80% of people there said they'd go back to hand-planing instead of machines. Tool stores saw 35% more sales of old-school tools, and it all started with Tom pushing a plane across one board for 2 long days. But early 2025 hit him harder than any expo. In January, he fell off a ladder on a job in Massachusetts and broke his hip. Doctors said guys over 70 usually take months to walk normal again. He listened. Then he basically ignored the timeline. 6 weeks later, he was back on Ask This Old House, showing his new ladder tricks. He taught small steps, slow climbing, and his new thing called ladder checkpoints. Every 10 feet, stop, breathe, check balance, then go. Older DIY folks sent letters saying his real talk kept them from falling too. Soon after coming back, he worked with his nephew Charlie on a tiny house project in New England. They wanted zero waste. Every piece of wood counted. They used old barn wood for the frame and turned scraps into brackets and shelves. The build became a 10-part online series. It reached over 1,000 DIY fans and got tons of them thinking about wasting less. Charlie said the trick was Tom's rule: waste nothing. People loved it so much that tiny houses like it started popping up all over. Even with everything going on, Tom was still thinking deeper stuff. By late 2025, he was 78 and still checking quality at Silva Brothers. People whispered he might retire soon. He just shook his head. He said he'd keep building as long as he could breathe. And he started writing a book about his life. He wanted to share stories about mistakes, doing the right thing, patience, and the quiet moments that made him who he is. One early part talked about one bad nail that once caused a huge inspection fail. That mistake changed how he treated every piece of wood after. The book comes out in 2026, and publishers already say it's a must-read. Away from cameras, he kept a softer life. For over 50 years, he and Susan went to Portuguese festivals in Massachusetts. Every June, they hit the Provincetown Portuguese Festival, which hit its 78th year. In 2025, it ran June 27 to 29, and over 10,000 people came. Tom carved wooden rosaries, a skill his grandpa taught him in the 1970s. Festival people often asked him to demo his carving. Locals saw him as part of the festival family. At home, he hung out in his little Arlington shop full of 1950s tools. He fixed up super old planes, chisels, and levels, some over 100 years old. Collectors said pieces like his could go for hundreds or thousands of dollars. His rare Diston handsaw from the 1820s cost him $50 at a barn sale in 2015 and was worth about $5,000 now. He sold lots of restored tools and gave the money to scholarships for new carpenters. Every tool in his shop had its own story, and he brought them back using stuff from their own time. And then came the secret that shocked even his biggest fans. By 2025, he owned 200 vintage saws. It was one of the biggest private saw collections around. The Star Diston handsaw sat in the middle like a museum treasure. But behind that hobby was something way bigger. Since 1999, he had quietly paid to help families rebuild homes for families hit by fires in California and Massachusetts. 3 families got whole new houses because of him. He never wanted credit. People only found out from folks who saw the Silva Brothers Foundation help with no strings or bragging. Even without posting on social media, his impact was everywhere. DIY YouTube channels copied his tricks and got over 10 million views a year. People re-watched old episodes, studied his joints, and hunted antique saws and planes at shows. Tons of tools sold out because of him. Online forums argued if his ways were still best, and lots of new carpenters said it all started with watching Tom fix stuff on TV. In April 2024, he stepped into a whole new spotlight. The National Housing Hall of Fame added him and celebrated his 38 years on this old house. Surveys said his work got over 50 million people to try home projects the safe way. He became official American building history, and it put him with the most trusted names in construction. On top of everything, he never stopped teaching. Every year, he trained 20 new apprentices with tons of patience. Since 2010, over 250 carpenters learned from him. Stats showed they made 15% fewer joint mistakes than guys who didn't get his slow, careful training. These workshops built a whole generation that hated shortcuts and loved getting it perfect. By July 2025, he started talking about one last big special for this old house. He said he'd step back soon and the special would air in 2026. It'll be about 90 minutes with never-before-seen clips, on-set stories, interviews with co-stars, and memories from homeowners whose houses he saved. Producers were digging through thousands of hours of old footage to find the hidden gems.